Hey everyone, and welcome. We're diving into the world of learning management systems today, specifically Totara Learn.
Always exciting to explore a new LMS.
It is. Now, our listeners, have sent us some info from Webanywhere. They're a Platinum Totara partner, so they definitely know their stuff.
Platinum partners are the top tier, right?
Yeah, the best of the best. So we're really excited to dig into what they have to say. And one thing that pops out right away is this whole open source thing with Totara Learn. They make it sound like a pretty big deal. What do you think? Is it really all it's cracked up to be?
Well, I think it's important to first unpack what open source actually means for those who might not be familiar. Essentially, it means you have access to the source code of the software.
Okay, so it's like lifting the hood and seeing the engine, but instead of a car, it's our LMS.
Exactly. And just like tinkering with a car engine, having access to the source code gives you the power to customize and modify the software to your heart's content.
So you're not stuck with some cookie cutter solution that might not quite fit your needs. You can tweak it, refine it, really make it your own.
You hit the nail on the head. That level of flexibility is a game changer for many organizations, especially when it comes to cost effectiveness.
Makes sense. No more being held hostage by those hefty licensing fees some of the other LMS providers are known for.
Precisely. Open source often translates to significant cost savings, as you're not paying for expensive licenses or being locked into restrictive contracts.
And those savings can then be reinvested back into creating even better learning experiences. It's a win-win. But let's dive into some of those specific features that Webanyware highlights, because they mentioned some really cool stuff. One that caught my eye was adaptive learning. It almost sounds too good to be true. Like the LMS anticipates what you need before you even know you need it. Is that how it works?
It sounds futuristic, but it's closer to reality than you might think. Adaptive learning in Totara Learn essentially personalizes the learning journey for each individual.
So it's like having a personal tutor built right into the system.
In a way, yes. The system tracks your progress, identifies your strengths and weaknesses, and adjusts the learning path accordingly. If you're breezing through certain topics, it might accelerate the pace or introduce more challenging material. And if you're struggling, it can provide additional support and resources.
So it's all about making sure each learner is engaged and challenged at the right level. No more getting bored with content that's too easy or feeling lost because things are moving too fast.
Exactly. It's about creating that optimal learning experience for everyone, regardless of their prior knowledge or skill level.
Now that's what I call personalized learning. And Webanyware emphasizes this idea of unified learning, which is another one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot. What exactly does it mean in the context of Totara Learn?
You know how some companies have a separate system for everything? Like one for onboarding, another for compliance training, and yet another for professional development.
Oh, tell me about it. I've definitely been there trying to navigate a million different platforms. It's a nightmare.
It is. It's incredibly inefficient and can be super frustrating for learners too. Well, Totara Learn takes a different approach. It brings everything together in one central hub, creating a seamless learning experience.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all things learning and development?
Exactly. No more jumping through hoops or toggling between different systems. Everything is easily accessible from a single platform.
That sounds like a dream come true, honestly. Okay, let's talk about something we all have a love-hate relationship with, assessments. I'll be honest, I still get flashbacks to those mind-numbing multiple-choice quizzes from high school. Are we talking about the same old here? Because Webanyware describes Totara Learn's assessment engine as sophisticated, which frankly is a breath of fresh air.
And with good reason. Totara Learn moves beyond those traditional static assessments and offers a much more dynamic and engaging approach.
So what does that look like in action? What makes their assessments different?
Think interactive simulations, case studies, real-world scenarios, assessments that actually test your ability to apply what you've learned, not just memorize facts.
So we're talking about actually being able to USE the information, not just regurgitate it on a test. That's huge.
Absolutely. And it's not just about making assessments more engaging. It's about gathering valuable data that can inform your training programs and help you identify areas for improvement.
Because data is king, right? And speaking of data, Webanyware mentions that Totara Learn offers something called flexible reporting. What does that look like in practice? So, flexible reporting, huh? I feel like that's one of those things that sounds great in theory, but I'm always curious to see how it actually plays out.
It's all about empowering you with the right data at the right time. Think about it. You can have these beautiful, personalized dashboards that give you instant insights into your training programs.
Okay, now that you mentioned dashboards, that makes it a little more tangible. So instead of drowning in spreadsheets, I can get a clear visual overview of what's happening.
Exactly. Want to see how many people have completed a specific module? It's right there at your fingertips. Curious about which topics are resonating most with your team? The data can tell you.
It's like having a pulse on your training program. You can see what's working, what's not, and make adjustments accordingly.
Precisely. And let's say you notice that a particular module has a low completion rate. With Totara Learn, you can dig deeper to figure out why. Are people getting stuck? Is the content not engaging enough? Is there something else going on?
It's like being a detective for your training program. You can get to the root of the problem and find solutions.
Exactly. And that proactive approach can make a world of difference. Speaking of proactive, Webanywhere also talks about how Totara Learn integrates seamlessly with other tools and platforms. Your CRM, your HR system, even your data analytics tools, it can all connect.
Okay, now we're talking. I'm all about breaking down silos and making sure our systems are talking to each other. But paint a picture for me. What does that integration look like in a real world scenario?
Let's say you have a new employee joining the company. Instead of manually entering their information into a million different systems, imagine their data flowing seamlessly from your HR platform right into Totara Learn.
And then, boom, automated onboarding workflows are triggered.
You got it. The new hire immediately has access to all the essential resources, compliance training, company policies, everything tailored and ready to go.
No more onboarding nightmares. It's streamlined, efficient, and makes everyone's lives easier.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. Think about the possibilities for performance management, for professional development, even for talent retention.
We've talked about a lot of exciting features, but I'm curious, who is Totara Learn really for? I mean, it seems incredibly versatile, but are there certain types of organizations or industries that benefit most from this kind of platform?
That's where I think looking at real-world examples can be really helpful. And Webanywhere has some pretty compelling case studies highlighting the diversity of organizations using Totara Learn effectively. They've got global giants like Zara using it to train their massive workforce.
Zara, the fashion retailer.
Yes. And then you have institutions like University College London Hospitals using it to create a centralized learning hub for their healthcare professionals. And even companies like Superdrug, a high street retailer, are leveraging Totara Learn for their training needs.
Hold on a second. We're talking about fashion, healthcare, retail, all on the same platform. That's wild. It really speaks to its flexibility. But let's unpack these case studies a bit more because I'm curious, what specific challenges were these organizations facing and how did Totara Learn help them overcome those hurdles?
Let's take Zara as an example. As a global brand with a huge workforce spread across different locations and job roles, they needed an LMS that could keep up with their dynamic needs. They were struggling with things like inconsistent training delivery, difficulty tracking progress, and keeping everyone engaged.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It was. And that's where Totara Learn came in. It gave them the tools to create customized learning pathways, deliver targeted training content, and monitor progress in real time.
So consistency, personalization, all on a global scale. Impressive. What about UCLH? Their needs were probably quite different, right?
Absolutely. For them, it was all about centralizing their learning resources, improving compliance, and ensuring that healthcare professionals had easy access to critical information. They had been relying on a bunch of different systems, which was, well, chaotic.
I can imagine. Not very efficient.
Exactly. So they brought in Totara Learn to create this unified platform. They could streamline their training programs, manage compliance requirements more effectively, and make sure their staff had the knowledge to provide top-notch care.
It's amazing how Totara Learn can cater to such different contexts, but it sounds like having a clear strategy is crucial.
You hit the nail on the head.
It really is. I mean, these case studies show just how powerful it can be, but it's not a magic bullet, right? You can't just plug it in and expect everything to magically fall into place.
Exactly. Totara Learn gives you the tools, but you have to know what you're building, so to speak. It all starts with really understanding your organization's unique needs.
So where do you even begin? What are some questions that organizations should be asking themselves if they're seriously considering Totara Learn for their LMS?
Well, a good place to start is to take a hard look at your current training program. What's working, what's not.
Identify those pain points.
Right. Are you struggling to get people engaged in training? Are you having trouble keeping up with compliance requirements? Or maybe you're struggling to adapt to industry changes.
And then once you've got a handle on the challenges, you can start looking at your long-term goals.
Absolutely. What are you hoping to achieve? Do you want to foster a culture of continuous learning? Are you trying to equip your workforce with the skills they'll need for the future?
Or maybe it's about improving employee retention.
Right.
Yes.
All of those things. Once you have clarity on your goals, you can start to see how Totara Learn might help you get there.
And Webanywhere really seems to highlight the whole flexibility and customization aspect, which is super exciting. But it can also be a little overwhelming, right? I mean, where do you even begin? It's like being handed a giant box of Legos with no instructions.
That's a good analogy. And it's true, you can do so much with Totara Learn, but it's important to approach it strategically. Don't try to boil the ocean.
Don't get caught up in trying to use every single feature on day one.
Right. Focus on what will make the biggest impact first. Address those pain points, align with your goals. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That's where those platinum partners like Webanyware really come in handy. They've got the experience and expertise to guide you.
Like having a trusted advisor in your corner, making sure you're getting the most out of your investment.
Exactly. And through all of this, remember to always keep the learner at the center of it all.
Because at the end of the day, it's about creating meaningful and engaging learning experiences for your team.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like I've learned a ton, and I hope our listeners have too. So if you're ready to take the next step and explore Totara Learn further, I highly recommend checking out Webanywhere. They've got a ton of resources available, case studies, all sorts of things to guide you. And remember, the world of learning is changing. It's becoming more flexible, more engaging, and more personalized. And with the right tools and strategies in place, you can create a learning culture that really empowers your team to thrive. So that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.